Vice President J.D. Vance and Treasury Secretary Scott Besant pretty much face-planted a couple of questions when it came to the economy. And let me just play you this first one. Scott Besant actually blames illegal immigrants for beef, saying that they're bringing in their cows. I have never once seen a video of illegal immigrants crossing the border with cows, but sounds like what he's asserting here.
But what is your take on what you just heard? He's expecting $10 meat.
Well, Maria, the beef market is a very specialized market. It goes in long cycles, and this is the perfect storm. Again, something we inherited, and there's also, because of the mass immigration, a disease that we've been rid of in North America, made its way up through South America. As these migrants, they brought some of their cattle with them. So, part of the problem is we've had to shut the border to Mexican beef because of this disease called the screwworm. So we're not going to let that get into our supply chain. And again, I don't want to focus on one product. It's a very important product, and we are laser focused on this issue. And
have you ever once seen a video of illegal immigrants crossing the border with cows? They're bringing their cows with them. I mean, she's just asking, why is the price of meat going up? And he's like, because the illegal immigrants are bringing their cows. Oh, we just blame everything on the illegal immigrants, including their make-believe cows that they're bringing across the border. They are not bringing any cows across the border. And if they did, wouldn't that make the price of meat go down? More cows coming in, meaning the cost of beef would go down. Why would it go up? And then he says, well, because their cows are infected and their cows are bringing a disease that then is running rampant through our meat, and that is causing our meat supply to dwindle, which then would make costs go up because there's just the supply and demand issue. But he's sitting there, and he's fumbling through his words. He doesn't have an answer for this. And yet, he's sitting there saying, well, it's because the illegal immigrants are trekking in their cows, right? Well, if ICE can't stop them, if the Border Patrol can't stop them while they're trekking along their slow-moving cows, then it is our fault, for sure. J.D. Vance also made some interesting comments in an interview. There's a few clips here that I want to play for you of J.D. Vance. One of them, he says that immigrants are causing the housing crisis. So we do have home prices are high. People are not buying homes right now. And J.D. Vance is saying, well, it's because of the illegal immigrants.
A lot of young people are saying housing is way too expensive. Why is that? Because we flooded the country with 30 million illegal immigrants who were taking houses that ought by right go to American citizens. And at the same time, we weren't building enough new houses to begin with, even for the population that we had.
Okay, if he was talking about rent, I would maybe agree with him on this. If he was saying, look, rent prices are up because we've got all these illegal immigrants coming in, and then they rent the cheap houses, and then that leaves, they're getting the cheapest of the cheap. And so then that kind of has like this trickle effect where rent prices go up. I could maybe agree with him when it comes to rent, but he's not talking about rent. He's talking about houses for purchase. And he's talking about new builds of houses. So apparently these illegal immigrants flood into our country. They take our cheapest paying jobs, our lowest wage jobs, and they're able to buy our expensive houses with these low wage jobs. Like, is that what's going on here? Are we having a housing issue? Is Trump now he's saying he wants to unveil a 50-year mortgage to young people because illegal immigrants are buying the houses? That's not who's buying the houses. They're not buying the houses. No. They're maybe renting cheap units in the hood, but they are not buying the houses. And he says, oh, that's what's happening here. No, that is not what is happening. Who's buying up the houses are the big venture firms that are going in, the investment firms that are going in and buying up American single-family homes and turning them into rentals. That's who's buying up all of the houses. Housing prices are up. People cannot afford them. It has nothing to do with the illegal immigrants. They're not the ones buying the houses, that's for sure. So what gives? What is that? But it's just another funny answer trying to equate that it's the illegal immigrants. That's who's causing the housing. The reason why young people can't buy homes and the reason why young people need 50-year mortgages is because of the illegal immigrants, don't you know? He also says don't worry about automation, that robots aren't going to steal your jobs, he says.
It happened in Los Angeles.
So sad.
Have people who are still trying to get the permitting to rebuild their houses. This happened so long ago. So we've got to get our blue states to build enough houses for their citizens because our red states and the federal government is actually doing a really good job. By the way, one of the biggest cities where you're seeing housing costs come down? Austin, Texas, because they're choosing smart policies and they're building enough housing. Now, on the AI.
Okay. So before he moves on to AI and robots taking your job, so here he is saying the problem is blue states are not letting people rebuild their homes faster. Now he's talking about California, he's talking about Los Angeles, and that after the fires, that it has been very difficult for people to get the permits to rebuild their homes. And he's criticizing this. Have you been watching the news over the last few days? Los Angeles is flooding right now. And there are mudslides happening. And guess where the mudslides are happening? Oh, yes, where the fires were. Because that's what happens when the trees burn. Mudslides happen. That is why people were not allowed to build their homes right up again. As much as they screamed and demanded that they should be allowed to build their homes. No, they weren't allowed to because they would have just slid right off the hill. This is what's going on in Los Angeles right now.
Crews in California, they're getting ready, as well as residents doing their best to prepare for the storm's prolonged impacts. ABC's Jacqueline Lee is in Pacific Palisades with more on that. Jacqueline, good morning.
Hey, Wade, good morning. Burned areas on the hillside here along Pacific Coast Highway have been covered with tarps to help prevent mudslides. And overnight, officials issuing evacuation orders in areas like the Pacific Palisades. This morning, California in the midst of rapid rainfall. More than 22 million residents bracing for a high risk of flash flooding, mudslides like these from September, and debris flow, with up to 6 inches or more of rain through Saturday evening.
Once it gets 10 feet or over, that's when our fire department and the county fire is going to have to start doing some rescues.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, that's why you weren't allowed to build your house right away. Because we didn't want it sliding off the hill. Doesn't matter how rich you are, how much you scream. You cannot beat Mother Nature. You should have learned that, actually, when your house burnt down. In those areas which have historically burned year after year after year for the last hundreds of years since we've been monitoring fires in the region. It's a fire zone. But J.D. Vance, so let's go back to him and let's see what he has to say about automation.
That job, does it take away from a...
Here, let me see.
Look, I understand why policies and they're building enough housing. Now, on the AI issue.
Yeah.
Look, I understand why people are worried that, if you have a robot doing that job, does it take away from a blue collar worker who can do that job? Right now, the evidence that I see is that if we really lean into robotics and technology, it's going to raise everybody's wages and make everybody better off. The example that I often give is of bank tellers. If you go back to when the automated teller machine was invented, everybody said it was going to destroy the jobs of all the bank tellers. What actually happened is that today you have more people working in bank telling than you did 50 years ago. They're doing different jobs. They're not just handing people money. They're doing different jobs, but they have higher wages. So sometimes what technology does is it allows somebody to do something a little bit different, to use their mind a little bit more than some of the rote tasks they might have been doing. And that actually means they're more productive, they get better wages, and everybody becomes better off. So I don't think that we're going to ever eliminate the construction industry in this country just because you've got robots. What you're going to have is a lot of construction workers who are using those robots, who are directing those robots, who are actually able to do more with less because they're using technology to help them. You're always going to need construction workers in this economy, but I want their wages to go up. And I think if we lean into technology, that's what's going to happen.
Okay, he's right and he's wrong. It is true that when the ATM was invented, that bank teller jobs did not decrease. That is true. They moved into other positions, and if anything, they increased for a couple of decades. But do you know what actually killed the bank teller jobs? Because there are fewer today. So where he's wrong is there are fewer tellers today than there were 30 years ago. So yes, the ATM did not kill the bank teller jobs, but what did kill the bank teller jobs was all the AI automation, all the mobile apps, all the computer systems. That did kill the bank teller jobs, and now there are fewer. So when he wants to sit there and say, well, the ATM didn't kill it, right, but the rest did. So you might say, oh, well, the robot won't kill it, but all of the AI will. So basically, you're just going to have no jobs for all of these people. We have a population that is increasing worldwide. We're going to have fewer jobs for those people. And you've got an administration saying, pull yourself up by the bootstraps and go make yourself some money. How are you going to make money when your job has been taken and now 1 million people are competing for 100,000 jobs? What are you going to do? I mean, unless we get job creation, this is, that's the thing is most presidents have focused on job creation, not job elimination. And we've now reached this new era where it's true, AI is amazing. Robot, all this tech is going to be enhancing in a lot of ways, I think, for people's lives. There's a lot of really dangerous jobs out there that I think it's probably better suited for a robot. I mean, I look at those guys, doing those jobs where they're building those tall skyscrapers and they're up on they're like dangling and you just think one wrong step and that guy falls off of that. He falls right off that building. I mean, maybe it's better for a robot to do that job. I don't know. I mean, maybe not. Maybe it's better for a robot to be the one, swimming in the sewer if we needed somebody to do that terrible job. Certainly if somebody needed to go into the nuclear reactor that's blown, it's melting and someone's going to go in there and it's going to cause you cancer. Well, send a robot in. Okay, I can see that. I can see that there are some jobs, but those are really far and few between. We really need to have an administration and a government focused on job creation. And instead we get a lot of, we're going to do more automation, more AI, we're going to do robots, and don't worry about your jobs. We're not getting any solutions. They're just saying, don't worry about your jobs, you'll adapt. You'll be fine, you'll figure it out. Go create some jobs. That's actually your job. That you're the government. You're not just in some position of hoity-toity high power. You're actually the government. The very thing that you rail against, right? The very thing that people want less of, you're actually the government. So you have to create the jobs for the people so that we don't end up with a society people just wasting away on meth on the side of the street, because that's what people will do. A failing society, people end up on the streets, high amounts of drug use, lots of homelessness, and a lot of hopeless people turning to God. And I am seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing those patterns right now in this country. Right now, I see a lot of people converting to God. Now, you might think, well, that's a good thing, Kim. People are finding faith and religion, and that's a good thing overall, and maybe it is. But it's a bad sign when an entire society starts turning to God. That means that they have lost hope. They don't have anything else, and they're just thinking, all I can do is pray. Now, again, you might think it's a good thing, but it's actually a bad sign. It's a bad economic sign. It's a bad economic omen. And we've got cities with people wallowing in the streets. And you can say, it's the Democrats' fault. Really? Well, where's the jobs for these people? And are Republicans coming up for the jobs? Because they're sitting here saying, don't worry about those robots that are coming to take your jobs. So we've got to fix this and come up with some prosperity for people. Otherwise, we will continue to reel into drug addiction, people wallowing and wasting away in the streets, and more people turning to God because they are completely hopeless otherwise. And that is a scary prospect for our future, something we absolutely need to be aware of and changing, not just saying, don't worry, you'll be fine. The ATM didn't kill the jobs. Okay, a lot of other things did after that, but don't worry about that. Let's not talk about it. Don't worry about it. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iversen Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.